wood. I guess we'll talk about wood a little bit for anyone who is confused or needs help. I might not talk about wood right now. How much time do I have? I've got some time. Okay, so we're going to talk through wood quickly. The vascular cambium is this single cell thick layer. It's a sheath that goes around an entire tree, almost on the very outside of the tree, just within the bark. It's this single cell thick sheath. It's like a sleeve that goes around an arm. It goes around a tree. And it is an undifferentiated meristematic tissue that is responsible for producing secondary xylem inside of itself and secondary phloem outside of itself. So that secondary xylem we call wood, colloquially. That secondary phloem, many people will call inner bark, colloquially. And so this vascular cambium is a reproductive layer. It is undifferentiated, and it is giving rise to cells that will then differentiate and have form and function that does not purely consist of reproducing. Right, so this vascular cambium is just a generative layer. It's just responsible for generating new tissue. We split wood up into sapwood and heartwood. We'll talk about this in a little. But sapwood is living wood, or it is wood that has living cells. These living cells are called parenchyma. It also has many cells that are dead at maturity. If it's a hardwood, if it's an angiosperm, it might also have dead vessels, dead tracheids, dead fibers, let's say. But it has interspersed in many different patterns. It has living parenchyma. Those parenchyma die in heartwood. So what happens is a tree will produce new rings inside of that vascular cambium. Every year, a new ring, right? We're all pretty familiar with this in the temperate world. Every year, a new ring is produced inside of the vascular cambium by the vascular cambium. So the innermost rings are the oldest. And eventually, these rings may be inefficient to maintain as alive. And maybe that over time, the tree says, well, I don't need all these rings to conduct water. I don't need all these rings to protect against pathogens, let's say, or to store starch, which are some of the other activities that parenchyma, living parenchyma, are responsible for. So what it will do is it will retire its sapwood. It will take this innermost ring of sapwood, and it will retire it to become heartwood. And heartwood has dead parenchyma, so there are no living cells in heartwood. It has dead parenchyma, and it also does not conduct, right? So it doesn't conduct water. It doesn't have living cells, and because there are no living cells, it can't actively defend itself. So in some ways, it is innately weak to fungal invasion, which is why the tree tries to compensate by staining it with what are called extractives. Extractives are polyphenols, tannins. They are complex molecules that act as fungicidal compounds. So this sapwood, when it's retired to heartwood, the parenchyma dies. The wood is now totally dead. It's now on its own to passively fend off fungal invasion. And I say passively because there's no living cells. No coated walls, right? No compartmentalization of decay can occur in the heartwood. The only thing saving the heartwood is lack of exposure, right? You have living sapwood that protects new spores and new hyphae, hopefully, from coming in, which is why when you make a branch wound, when you cut a tree and you expose heartwood, it's an easy avenue into the center. Heartwood, where was I going with that? I don't remember what I was just saying. Oh, the other thing that heartwood is protected by, apart from living sapwood surrounding it and insulating it, the other thing that heartwood is protected by is these extractives, which act as a passive defense. So sapwood can defend itself actively via these parenchyma. These parenchyma spring into action. They mobilize metabolites, and they lay down higher amounts of lignin, different polyphenols. They can create these boundaries to consolidate and to compartmentalize decay, whereas heartwood only has these passive extractive defenses. Phloem, down here, as we talked about, phloem is inner bark. Phloem is responsible for moving sugars down from the leaves, can also move sugars up. And sapwood typically As far as conduction is concerned, as far as vascular functioning is concerned, it moves typically water and dissolved nutrients and minerals up from the roots. It only goes up. Phloem can go up or down. Xylem only goes up. Typically, for the purposes of this course. Cork cambium is another, real thin layer, sleeve, that produces, for our purposes, just one layer outside of itself. It produces cork. Cork is outer bark. Paraderm concerns cork cambium and cork. Cork is outer bark, totally dead at maturity, right? We're used to seeing bark. It's what you see on the outside of a tree as you see bark. Unless it's a 1-year-old twig, in which case it might be epidermis. Cool. Want you to know these layers. Structural components, we've been over this, right? We have our lignin concrete and our cellulose microfibril rebar. I love making this metaphor. Differences between sapwood and heartwood. We just went over these pretty significantly. You're welcome to pause the video and look at them. I think we've been over all this. I feel pretty good with this. I'm gonna leave it at this for now. Hopefully this was a helpful video. If you want more content like this, let me know, and I can do these leading up to most tests. I could do this more often. I've never been in this room before. It's pretty cool. I'm having fun. Yeah. Hope you all have a good time studying. Bye.